Now, to carry out the division of directed numbers, you just need to know how to divide numbers. So let's start with part 1. Minus 4 divided by 4. We can write this as minus 4 over 4. Now 4 in 4 is 1, and 4 in 4 is 1. So we're left with minus 1 over 1. 1 over 1 is the same thing as 1. So I'll just write the minus sign, and then instead of 1 over 1, I'm just going to write 1. And that's the answer. For part 2, we have minus 4 divided by minus 4. Okay, so the way to think about this kind of scenario is you just say, well, the minus, you can think of it this way. You can think of the minus signs as cancelling each other out. So you say this minus sign cancels this minus sign. So what you're left with is 4 over 4, which is 1. For part 3, we have plus 2 divided by minus 1. Now, you can think of the plus divided by the minus as being minus, and then 2 divided by 1 as being 2. So you need to remember that if you have a situation of the form, well, the fraction of the form plus a divided by minus b, where a and b are positive numbers, let's say integers, plus divided by a minus sign is a minus sign, and then you have a over b. So the answer is minus a over b, and that's what was done here. We have plus 2 divided by minus 1. So I say plus divided by minus is minus, and then I have 2 over 1, which obviously is the same thing as 2. For part 4, it's minus 2 over 5 divided by 10. This can be rewritten. I'll continue here. In fact, let's just start here. So minus 2 over 5 divided by 10 is the same thing as minus 2 over 5 times 1 over 10. So in case you can't remember why, a divided by b is the same thing as a times 1 over b. So a divided by b is the same thing as a times the reciprocal of b. And the reason why the reciprocal of b is 1 over b is because b, I'll do that here, b is the same thing as b over 1, because anything divided by 1 is itself. Now, to find the reciprocal of a number, you swap of a fraction, you swap the positions of the numerator and the denominator. So the reciprocal of b over 1 is 1 over b. So that's why. So the resulting fraction, because all we have now is a problem where we're just multiplying fractions, is given by the following. The numerator of the resulting fraction is given by multiplying the numerators of the fractions being multiplied. So minus 2 times 1, which is minus 2, and then the denominator is given by 5 times 10, which is 50. So the answer is minus 1 over 25. 2 in 2 is 1, 2 in 50 is 25. So the way to think of minus 2 over 50, or what we had there was minus 2 over 50, is to just write down the minus sign, and then you have 2 over 50. So that's equal to minus, what's 2 over 50? 1 over 25. So I think that brings us to another kind of, well, like another rule, another approach for manipulating fractions. If you have something like minus 4 over 10, is the same thing as minus, you just write the minus sign, the same thing as minus 4 over 10. I'll give you another example. Minus 3 divided by 7 is the same thing as minus 3 over 7. So in general, minus a over b, where a and b are positive integers, the same thing as minus a over b. Now to part 5. We're asked to divide minus 1 over 10 by 7 over 5. So it's minus 1 over 10. And I'm going to change this division symbol to a multiplication symbol, which means I have to take the reciprocal of 7 over 5, which is 5 over 7. You just swap the positions of the numerator and the denominator. So now I'm left with just multiplying two fractions by each other. So I have minus 1 over 10, which is the same thing as minus 1 over 10 times 5 over 7. So it's minus 1 times 5, which is minus 5 over 10 times 7, which is 70. I can then rewrite this as minus 5 over 70, which is minus 5 over 70. The result can be simplified further because 5 in 5 is 1 and 5 in 70 is, well, 5 in 7 is 1, remainder 2, 5 in 20 is 4. So the answer is actually, in the simplest form, is minus 1 over 14. Now part 6 is minus 4 over 5 divided by minus 1 over 2. Same thing as minus 4 over 5 divided by, now this is minus 1 over 2, and I mean minus 1 over 2, but that's the same thing as minus 1 over 2. So note the difference. I have a minus sign, then I have my fraction, as opposed to here where I have a fraction and the numerator is actually a negative number. Here the numerator is a positive number. So I'm going to write this minus 1 over 2 as minus 1 over 2. And then now I'm going to change the division symbol to a multiplication symbol, which means I have to take the reciprocal of the fraction that follows. So instead of minus 1 over 2, I have 2 over minus 1. And then this minus 4 over 5, the same thing as minus 4 over 5. So we have this times 2 over minus 1. So I'm going to simplify. The numerator of the resulting fraction is given by minus 4 times 2, which is minus 8. And then the denominator is given by 5 times minus 1, which is minus 5. So the minuses cancel out. That's a way to think about it. And you're left with 8 over 5.